You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. Now, in the mountains of Arizona, at least let's see that 4,000, 3,500 to 6,000 foot level. We can grow things year round here. We can have vegetables year round, flowers year round. We can have all four seasons look fantastic year round. We do have four seasons, but they're so mild that the ground doesn't really freeze. It doesn't turn into ice like it would in the Midwest. And so it thaws. And so it's so nice during the day, can cold at night. And so some plants that just thrive on that. And you're in that transition zone now. So you're starting to see your summer vegetables they're done. I mean, they might have an eggplant, a cucumber, a tomato hanging on, but pretty much they're done. I mean, you pick them, have them ripen inside the house because they're going to freeze and turn to mush. Pull those things out of the ground. They're not going to do you any favors at this point. You're done. It's over. But what you can do is free up that space and put in your winter vegetables. There's a whole series of edible crops that love to grow through the winter. They'll harvest. You can have parsley and kale, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. You can go on and on. Basically, if it's a fruit, you're harvesting the actual fruit, a cucumber, an eggplant, a tomato. That's a summer plant. So they don't like the winter. They're going to die. If you get to even close to 32, they just stop. They shut down. They're going, I am just too cold out here in the gardens. And it's over for them. The plants that you're harvesting, the flower or the foliage, one of those two. So you're picking off the lettuce, the spinach. You're harvesting the Brussels sprouts off the stems, or the cauliflower is basically, it's a flower. You're eating the flower part of it. Those are plants that love the cold. Actually, they'll perform better. The flavor comes out better when it's chilly. They need frosty nights for the flavor to kind of come around. If it's too warm, they tend to bolt. They get bitter flavor. They go off flavored. And so this cold climate, this is when they do better. So there's actually a seasonality. So you're dealing these winter crops or cool season crops. They do better in spring and fall. This is their best time. So you're planting them in March. You're planting them really now. And you'll harvest those through the end of the year. In January, everything takes a little break in January, including us, gardeners. We take a little break. We're inside, sipping some tea, eating some more cookies, trying to deal with that holiday weight we just put on in January. And then February comes around, it gets really nice, and you just go right back at it, and you get your soils ready, and you're right back at it. So a lot of your flowers are the same way. So you're pretty much, it's done. The petunias, the calibrachoas, the geraniums, the zinnias for sure, on lantanas, they're done. They're not pentas. It's all over. They don't like the cold. But if you pull those out, add a little fresh potting soil, and you put fresh pansies and snapdragons and violas and ornamental kales and cabbages, these are beautiful plants. And they love showing off. They feel beautiful in the winter. They feel hot and sweaty in the summer. So these plants they're just like people. Some people love summer and they just get chilly. They need more layers. I can't get warm. I need a Phoenix home. They're just like the summer. And some folks love the chill. They love a fire, roasting their bum in front of the fire, just looking out, watching snowflakes fall. That's their time. There are some plants that are the same way, that love being out there in that cooler weather, and they show off and they talk to you better. They bloom better. So my pansies, I planted those maybe a month ago because I wanted them to be full and chubby and full and happy. And then I knew when this weather turned, they would just bloom their little heads off. And they are. I mean, they're just covered. You can hardly see the foliage. They're all flowers. And so this is a big pot. We're not talking one plant. We're talking 3 or 4 in this container. And it is overflowing. And it will look like that right through winter because we're so mild. Now I'm up above the high school here in overlooking the Dells here in the Prescott area. And so I'm up at, I think the house is at 5,700 foot level. So it's in that zone where we get cold. I mean, when I'm heading home, sometimes it's right there at the snow line where it's really dumping and the rest downtown is not. So that's where these plants are thriving. And they like that kind of weather. If I get too much snow in the winter, I'll brush off the snow off the top of my pansies. And there they are underneath the snow. I brush it off so they can see the light. There's something about flowers popping through snow that just goes, wow. But it's not crocus, it's pansies and violas. Snapdragons, now they'll bloom to the end of the year. And then what they'll do is they'll stop blooming and they have that flower stalk. So I'll cut that flower stalk off, but I'll keep the green foliage up because they look good. They're evergreen. They look good. They're good fillers inside my containers or at the back end, middle side of that raised bed or something. Now, but I'll just give them a quick haircut and they look fantastic. One of my favorite perennials. It is a showstopper are euphorbias. Now, euphorbias, they come in 3 or 4 varieties, but gopher plant or gopher spurge is probably our most famous of all of the euphorbias. It's got a yellow flower in spring. It's got a blue, kind of prehistoric looking like dragon scales going up and down this stem. It's pretty. It looks southwesterny. Another one that's got the same hardiness, the same tough, evergreen, perennial, grows for years and years and years in a garden, keeps its foliage up through winter, is called rainbow ascot euphorbia. And there's a Merlot variety, the same thing. There's a purple one and a kind of a green golden one. But the green golden, it's pretty through winter. It almost glows. The days are so short. It's the only perennial that sits out there and just glows. No matter the weather, it just looks so good. And so I love there's certain perennials you can plant out there that are evergreen. And there's certain vegetables you can have out there that are evergreen or ever producing. And there's certain annual flowers. That is, they shine their best. They bloom their hearts out in the middle of winter. You just got to know when to plant them. I find a lot of folks new to the area, they plant them off cycle. They're planting that last crop of pansies or violas in May. Of course, and then it's just 95 degrees in June. They get 6 weeks of enjoyment when they should have been planting them now. They'd have all winter long to enjoy them. And then they'll finally flame out. They don't like the heat. They don't like being sticky, gross, and sweaty. Pansies don't like the heat. They like the cold. This is when you switch those things out and you put what plants love to be hot and sweaty? Well, zinnias, geraniums, petunias, lantanas. Blast them with heat, give them more sun. They're like bathing out there on the pool side, just going, I can't get enough rays. They just want more sun. They don't like the cold though. So, but some plants do. And so if you're thinking vegetables, kind of wrap this whole thing up. Think in terms of the plants that you're harvesting, the foliage or the flower heads. That'd be spinach, lettuce, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, kales, cabbages. In herbal terms, it'd be parsley, lavender, rosemaries. These are all evergreen kind of plants that love this time of year. You plant them now is when they look their best. You're talking perennials. There are some evergreen perennial flowers. Remember, perennial and permanent both start with P. So they come back year after year after year. But one of my favorites as of last winter, because it just was a rock star. I planted more of them because they just look so good, are your euphorbias, rainbow ascot, Merlot, gopher plant. These are all plants that just stay evergreen. They're low growing animals. Javelina, don't eat them. I know they're eating those pumpkins out there, but they're not going to eat euphorbia. They will eat your vegetables. So if you watch that. They love broccoli too. So they love kale. So kind of watch what you're doing. But you've already got a spot like that because you were growing your tomatoes and your other summer crops out there. If you're harvesting the foliage, that's a winter crop. If you're harvesting the fruit itself, that's a summer vegetable. And you plant them accordingly. Okay, we're going to wrap this thing up.
Waters Garden companion plants for November are flowering pear, English ivy, camellias, and Vanderwolf pine.
Vanderwolf is related to Arizona pines with fluffy foliage.
It's remarkably resilient in dry Arizona soils.
Makes a graceful specimen in yards or expansive estate landscapes.
This distinctive pine, long, twisted, silver blue needles covering the dense branches.
Carefree and easy to grow.
Shop by store or online at watersgardencenter.com.
For a more fruitful garden, increase success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Waters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.